Good morning, everybody. Can we hear okay? Mic all right? Great. Good morning, everybody. My name is Samantha Goretto. I am the Executive Director of Client Solutions at POLITICO Europe, and I am thrilled to be joined on stage by some wonderful speakers here. We have Karen Masson, who is the Head of Government Affairs and Public Policy for EU institutions at Google. Welcome, Karen. And we have Milena Jaburkova, who is the Vice President of the Czech Confederation of Industry. Welcome, Milena.
Thanks.
Thank you both for joining us today for this conversation this morning. Great. So we have a lot to cover today, so looking forward to getting started with you both. So right now, we're of course here over the last few days at the AI and Tech Summit to talk about how Europe is debating how to achieve digital sovereignty while also trying to lead in AI. So Karen, I'm curious about your perspective from a global technology provider. What does a successful, sovereign, and competitive European digital ecosystem actually look like in practice?
Thank you very much. Well, first, I just want to step back into what we're trying to achieve. I mean, we're trying to digitalize Europe. There are 30 million companies in Europe. A lot of them are SMEs. There is also all the public sector we try to digitalize, and this is basically what is at stake. And for that, we need a lot of people to make it happen. And this is why we actually really welcome, the fact that there has to be an ecosystem in Europe, which is going to be vibrant and which is going to be developing. So that's the first step. Second, of course, there is a question about, what is this sovereignty? And I think the instinct can be like, okay, we're going to close ourselves, we're going to isolate and do everything ourselves. But I think there is also another solution, which is the power to decide. And this is what we believe has to be sovereignty, the power to decide under your terms, choosing what you want as a solution, what partner, what customizing for your needs locally, and also making sure you've got the control that you want to put in place. And making sure that you can have the best technologies which are going to meet your needs to digitalize, but also into your own terms. And this is what we believe is really that discussion. Because if you look at what we all have to achieve, there is not one single region in the world who can actually achieve to do it alone. And this is why we feel it's very important, to have that self-sufficiency together in a partnership. And if you look at Europe, there is a lot of strength into Europe, which is the B2B, which is the industrial technology, and also the services. And this is where the bulk of digitalization is going to happen. And this is where we think, the solutions are going to be created together. And the last bit is that what we're trying to achieve with digitalizing is actually also to reach the AI momentum. It's going to give 1.2 trillion euro in Europe, and this is by working together that we're going to actually get that.
Nice that it's more collaborative than exclusionary. And Milena, the Federation has been a very vocal proponent of boosting Europe's competitiveness. Maybe building a little bit on what Karen shared, what do you think is needed for European industries to successfully adopt AI? And what would you say is actually the role of a global partner in that ecosystem?
I think we should slightly change the subject, because we are not talking about competitiveness anymore, I'm afraid. We are talking about whether Europe will be able to influence its own destiny in increasingly tech-driven and volatile world. And look at Ukraine. They were able to use this technological edge they built from scratch, not only to resist and survive a much stronger adversary, but also develop leadership and global influence and impact. So this is how we look in AI, at AI in Europe. So we have talents, we have industrial base, we have innovation potential, but what is really difficult for us, it's non-existent or fragmented or even increasingly fragmented single market, extreme regulatory complexity, and with technologies, it's uncertainty, lack of clarity about the data. So this is what we need to fix to be able to grow.
And maybe a good sort of pivot, because we hear a lot about, of course, the reliance on foreign technology, and obviously the idea of data security, and a lot comes into play here. So maybe, Karen, a question for you. How can European industries actually trust global partners? And how do you think about data security and making sure that that data is still under European control without stifling the potential innovation that could come from that?
So maybe I can take a football analogy, which works very well at the moment, especially with tonight's game. But what happens is that if you want to scale on speed, which is what I was referring before, you need a lot of players in that team. And actually, you need to make sure that, these players are going to be complementary, and that if you bench a player, you have enough of the people. And this is why we need a kind of set of very simple rules. We need interoperability, we need data portability, we need multi-cloud, so that everybody works together. And this is what we feel is very important. And if you look at what we need to do, I think there are different types of data, and there are different types of needs according to organization. And within an organization, they have also different types of data. So if you take, I don't know, a city hall, if you want to work on your air quality, or if you want on your traffic, for your cars, obviously, these data are not very confidential. If you're in a bank, or if you're in the healthcare sector, then that's actually very important that you kind of secure this data. And this is why a company like us, we have actually created a kind of array of different solutions which can go to the completely full independence. So we give encryption to the clients. We don't have access to the data. We don't have control. We also have done something important, which is data residency. And recently, we have actually created partnership. So new companies with different operators all over Europe. So we created a company called Sens, together with Thales in France. We created one with Proximus called Clarence for financial services, and also public sector in Luxembourg, one in Italy, and with Schwarzkopf in Germany. So we go to that level as well. And of course, this is not basically, we've given infrastructure, but there is absolutely no access. So we have this capacity to really tailor to what I was saying before, that choice about, making sure you've got your control, making sure that you know where your data is, and making sure that nobody can access it.
Great, thank you. Milena, you had mentioned a little bit of some of the challenges that you'd faced earlier. So maybe as a leading voice for Central and Eastern Europe, what would you say are maybe some of the unique opportunities and challenges that this region in particular can experience when it comes to adopting and embracing AI, maybe comparatively to the rest of the continent?
One of unique opportunities is our historical experience. We know what may come from the East, and this is really very important for us and influence a lot of our decisions. But if I look at the business side, we look at technologies from both ways. Ukraine, influence and survival. Estonia, the best digitalized state maybe in the world. Digital identity uses everyone there. So this is what is at stake. We are very much industrial. Maybe Czech Republic is one of the most industrial countries. We have a lot of data. We are open to tech, but we are smaller markets, except Poland. And we have problems with scaling. And last 2 years, I'm seeing 3 or 4 really good startups which developed solutions and came with me to Brussels to discuss. Already 2 of them are in US and 1 is in Singapore. So they don't stay in Europe, those good ideas.
Interesting. And so maybe, I guess, as we sort of look a bit more ahead to the regulatory landscape and kind of where we're at today, Karen, question for you, when you think about the fair cloud market, what do you think is the single biggest barrier to achieving that? But also maybe more broadly, as you think about your sort of, policy vision, what does the next decade look like? So a year from now, what do you hope to see? Maybe a sort of a midway point, and then, 10 years down the line, what does that look like to you?
Well, we would not be in Brussels if there were not things to discuss about, on legislation. First, we look forward to the EU Inc. Because, it looks like stupid, but a company like us, if we sign an agreement with, let's say, a bank, and that bank operates into different cities and countries, we actually need to sign a local agreement for each of the countries. So these kind of things will actually really, really simplify our work. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the process for the data center permits. At the moment, it takes 5 to 7 years. I think we could really, really improve that in terms of making it much faster and looking at the maturity, basically, basically of the processes, which I think would be good. Maybe we can digitalize a bit, which I think would be good. And I think we need to modernize the procurement as well. Now technology is going so fast that if you make a procurement and you stifle, the technology on the specific requirements, it doesn't match the needs anymore. There is now this idea of making a marketplace. So you have a bunch of money, and then you can actually adapt to the production, which is faster, and then to the technological developments, which are fast as well, and you can have always the latest things. So these kind of things, I think, would be very important. And then the last 2 points is that I think we hear about it at the moment in Iran, but we can't digitalize if we don't have the energy. So I think we really, really need to make sure that we have an energy which is modernized. I think digitalize the energy. For instance, if we were using our latest tool, you can be 20 to 40% more efficient into the current grid, because it's very important to create new grid, but it takes years. But within months, we could already have like 20 to 40% more, basically, of energy. And then finally, the people. We need the skills for the people, because, at the moment, we're opening data centers, and we don't have the people for the skills for that. So making sure we skill up the people, which are a really great opportunity.
Yeah, it's interesting that topic of people and workforce continues to come up too, is how do you prepare this sort of next workforce for that? And obviously a lot of work to be done in the next 10 years. Milena, so we know that Brussels right now is very focused on this simplification push around rules and regulations. Maybe looking at the same regulatory landscape, how do your members view these rules? So when we think about frameworks like the Cyber Resilience Act, how can we ensure that there are ways where we can foster that innovation without adding additional blockers or limitations to that?
Yeah, one of CEE specialties is a straight talk. So when I'm elected, so I have to take care of my, companies which are voting for. When I'm talking to them, they are frustrated, they are suffocating, and they feel that there needs to be the change. And frankly, for the first time, due to all the crises which are around us, there is a genuine try to do something with it, even though simplification addresses just a very small portion of the regulatory burden, and Commission keeps pouring new and new legislation. So the question is if it will transform to concrete steps, and that's what it's about. And we have similar problems in all the legislations we are debating related to technology. It's a complexity, it's a lack of clarity, and it's a regulatory clash, or you are doing one reporting multiple times for multiple authorities and the Cyber Resilience Act. Yeah. So unless this is addressed, there is nothing. Unless we solve GDPR in digital omnibus and we have more clarity about data, the digital omnibus loses any sense. With CRA, we need basic things, just genuine risk-based approach, submit one, use multiple times, and that's and the standards and guidance before you have duties to implement, the duties stemming from the law. Yeah. So these are, I think, basic things which are repeatable. For example, in AI Act, machinery, the medical device, we are debating, are they going to do reporting for AI Act and sectorial legislation? And this is so difficult, those what we think basic things to address at the EU, so remains to be seen if there will be any simplification.
So still a lot of work to be done, but hopefully some optimism and feeling like there's a path forward to work together. Maybe as just sort of a final thought here, if you think about kind of 1 year from now, what would sort of be your one hope for change, or one thing that you would like to see if we're sitting here on this stage, same time next year, what would you like to see in the next year? One sentence takeaway, what would you say? Karen?
I think I would agree with Milena. There is a lot of work to be done, basically. through the simplification, through the omnibus, because they aim to simplify, but actually it's complicated to get there, and we know they're going to be quite more. And there are things, that I totally agree, like for instance, every time we have a new act, we have a new report. At the moment, we're writing 10 reports with different templates, different timing. On the cybersecurity, as Milena was saying, if there is one accident, we need to report it into like 4 different legislation and 4 different agencies. This is being, trying to be addressed into the omnibus, and we really need these kind of things, like we need, the Act on the GDPR. So I think a facelift of all this legislation to make sure they're modernized, that they speak to each other, they're coherent with each other, and that they simplify. We're not trying to get out of the requirements, but honestly, I don't think the regulator understand after 10 reports. I think they would be better with 1 report, which brings the clarity.
Yeah.
So these kind of things would help them as well, for the control.
Yeah, more clarity, less multiple reports, as you say. And Milena, any final thought for now?
I see the Europe which is a leader in technologies, in AI and quantum, which is open, but has a firm control where we have access to the best technologies. We can change them, we can develop them, we can integrate them, and we can switch if provider is not good enough for us. So this is my vision of Europe who can lead in technologies.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Karen, and thank you, Milena, very much for the wonderful conversation. Really appreciate you coming and traveling here and sharing your thoughts with us. Up next, if you all could please remain seated, my colleague Sam Clark will moderate the next panel, New Cyber Threats, Rethinking the EU Cybersecurity Laws. Thank you all very much.